Julie, if you want to get started.
Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is a little bit after 10. I'm going to run through the list of participants, and if I don't call your name, please just identify yourself and what organization you are from or representing. So I have myself, Julie Richmond, Deputy Commissioner for Orange County Planning, as well as Director OCTC, and Ashley Long, Planner for OCTC, Jessica Ridgway, Planner for OCTC, Lauren Burns, Planner for OCTC, and Alan Sorensen, who is the Commissioner of Planning. And then our guests include Olu Valarens, Elizabeth Garrison on behalf of Jason Morris and Joe Donat, Frank Feliciato from Creighton Manning, Gedalia, Jacob, Jack Farr, Lizzie Phillips from the Thruway Authority, Moisha Gruber, Nicole Farmer from DOT, Rob Parrington, sorry, I forgot you, our transit rep from OCTC, Sandra Jobson from DOT, Scott Manley, Steve Godalewski, also from Creighton Manning, Travis Ewald, and then I have one number ending in 7447. I'm not sure if that's a double dial-in or what that is. Can someone identify who the 7447 is? And we also had Mike Sweeten just join us. Okay. With that, I think we'll move on to opportunity for public comment.
Julie, just 1 second. Elizabeth Garrison said that she's the call-in number.
Okay, good, thank you. So is there anyone who needs to make a public comment at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 3, accept the meeting minute transcript from April 13th, 2021. Are there any objections to the accepting the meeting minutes as distributed? Motion to accept?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, thank you. And now we will move into item number 4, the Transportation Improvement Program, where we have 2 admin modifications we need to talk about. And we have 2 new projects that we are going to be introducing as discussion items, and then the local project sponsor updates. So Ashley, if you want to move into OCTC admin modifications 20O and 20-P.
Okay, thanks, Julie. So administrative modification 20-O is for the town of Crawford's pedestrian improvements on New York State Route 302. And so it was proposed to roll their construction and construction inspection phases from FFY 21 to 22. And so the town of Crawford's actually approved this. So this one's gonna move along in the process unless anyone has any questions. Okay, I'm gonna roll right along into 20-P, which is for the Middletown traffic operations stages 1 and 2. So this is for both of these pins, and the proposal is to roll the current construction and construction inspection funds in 2022 into 2021, as well as show the currently listed 2023 dollars as local dollars, because in order for the city to receive authorization to go to construction and go to bid, FHWA requires that all of the funds they're able to see all of the funds in the year of authorization, which would be 2021. So this project will still utilize all of the funds you're seeing in 21, 22, and 23. It's just for FHWA purposes, we're also adding in this local line into 2021, which totals the same amount as what's in 2023. So yes, so there's the 22 funds would move into 2021, and that was made possible because the city of Newburgh rolled a project from their Broadway project into 2022. And so for fiscal constraint purposes, it works out. These projects are about the same cost amount. There's about a $315,000 difference, but NISDOT didn't see any issue in terms of fiscal constraint and offsetting the projects there. So does anyone have any questions about this project? I know it's a little different than some of the ones that are a little more straightforward. Okay. I'll probably, Jacob, I know you're on the line. I wasn't sure your thoughts on this movement.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Hold on one second, please.
Can I ask a question, Ashley? On the
Yes.
sheet, maybe I'm looking at the wrong sheet, but the 2022 money is 3.899. And if it moves in, oh, I see the 8.5 million up top. So I'm looking at the category in the change puts 20 million in 2021. I didn't understand where that all came from, I guess.
Right. Okay. So the first part of the action would be to move the 22 funds into 21, and that's due to the fact that Newburgh had moved out a project into 22.
Right.
So in terms of fiscal constraint, it would be fine.
Right.
But then for purposes of FHWA, they added in some local funds, which is kind of like the third and fourth line down in 2021 and the 0.64 and the 8.502. For purposes of showing FHWA that all of the construction funding, showing all the construction funding in the year of authorization, which would be 2021, DOT is proposed to add in these two local lines for the 2023 funds. But the 2023 funds would still be available in 2023. Did that make more sense?
No, not really. It makes it more confusing.
Sorry.
Where's the money coming from? It's a question, I guess, right? Because I'm assuming, well, maybe Jacob's going to tell us that, the project's going to get done in this fiscal year, I guess.
Yeah, so can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we're waiting right now. We've been submitting revisions for DOT for review and approval. And we just made the last submittal a few weeks ago. And we expect to hear, hopefully, approval to proceed into construction from DOT. Once we do that, we can go into construction. We can advertise the project for bid. And we do anticipate to be awarding the bids and starting the construction, which means obligating the construction, meaning using the construction fund that's available for us now. 2021. Am I right in my dates here, Ashley? Fiscal year, federal fiscal year is October.
Yes.
October. So up to October 22, so we're going to be advertising the project out for bid before October this year. And this way we can start tapping into the construction fund. So we've been going back and forth with the DOT, local projects for review. and comments and all that stuff. So that's where we are.
I guess what I'm just
Right.
trying to understand is the project in the revision seems to have gone up by $9 million. Where does that come from?
There
It's
was
the
always,
2023 funds. They're just being shown as a local amount in 2021. The project isn't actually increasing by $9 million. The way that FHWA, in order to go to authorization for construction, they require that all of the funding for the next phase, which is construction, be shown in the year of authorization in 2021. So in order to do that, we've added a local phase totaling the same amount as 2023 so that the city could go to authorization. And then once the city can start using the 21 and 22 funds, which would be obligated in 21 because we're moving the 22 funds to 21.
Right.
And then once they reach FFY 23, they would be able to start using those funds as well. And then the local totals that we're showing on the tip would kind of, it's more of a technicality, I guess.
So,
Sandra, do you have any?
yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
think of it, Mike, as it is a reimbursement program. We all know it's a reimbursement program. So I think Ashley did a really good job of explaining why we're showing it the way we're showing it. And I think also, you know, you have to remember that the TIP is totally a planning document, and no monies are ever guaranteed. So, you know, that's part of it. But really, I think just think of it as a reimbursement. You know, the city, again, is committing to the funds, but, you know, we anticipate they'll be able to apply for those in 23 as previously. The other important reason for this action is, and I think all MPOs in the Hudson Valley should be thinking this way, is when we have projects that slip from one year to the next, you know, we're thinking about TIP performance. And when that happens, you know, it hurts TIP performance. However, we're, I guess we're kind of gauged on it two ways. One is on the number of projects that we said we're going to deliver and we actually deliver. The other measurement is how many dollars the MPO said it was going to spend compared to how many it actually spends. So doing this move really helps the MPO with TIP performance because, okay, as far as number of projects that got delivered that you said you were going to deliver, okay, you know, one slipped out of the year. But by bringing these funds in for a project that's ready to go to bid, it helps with your total dollar amount. So it really is kind of a win-win on a number of levels. It shouldn't hurt anyone. It's just helpful all around.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm just trying to understand, and you know, I just don't want when Jacob's got to pay the contractors that he has the money. That's all. If it's not physically available for 23, but I get it. It's reimbursement, so I guess I get it.
Okay, and I know their project is multi-construction season, so that will help them too on the reimbursement side.
yeah, it will be phased in. That's exactly right. It will be phased over the years so that when the money is available, that part of the project will get started. So we'll be talking with Ashley and her team to make sure when we bid the project, we bid it in a way so that the funding will be available. We'll phase it so that the funding will be available when we whenever the construction is going to be starting. So we'll plan it that way.
And Ashley, the only other thing that I would ask, this is Sandra again, and I think we mentioned it to you earlier today, is just before this goes out for public review, if you can just expand the ballot comment so that it's clear that the funds that we're moving from 22 into 21, that there was an offset. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nicole and I were talking about it this morning, and I was going to resend the new ballot comments to Jacob after this meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Are there any other questions on that ballot? I know it is a little confusing.
Ashley, it's Julie. Just so to be really clear, so the project cost hasn't changed. It's just timing of the accessibility of the funds.
Correct. It's just how they're being shown on the tip, and we are moving the 22 funds to 21. But the total project cost is remaining the same. Okay. If there's no other comments, I'm going to move on to the draft tip amendment for the Scunamunk Rail Trail project. And actually, Alan Sorensen's going to give a little overview on this project, and then we'll talk about some of the other details as well.
Ashley, thank you. So we're excited about this project. It's referred to as Scunamunk Rail Trail. The county initially had some discussions with Open Space Institute about a year ago about the prospect of creating a rail trail along this segment of abandoned rail line. Since that time, OSI which is Open Space Institute, is currently under contract to purchase this right of way and is moving forward to ultimately enter into an agreement with Orange County, where Orange County will purchase the right of way. The project consists of the creation of the Scunamunk Rail Trail, which once acquired by the county and permanently protected, which facilitate the creation of a bicycle and pedestrian connections to the Salisbury Mills train station, Chester Park and Ride, and dial-a-bus service in the village and town of Chester. And we believe that the Scunamunk Rail Trail will dramatically improve public transit use and services by providing pedestrian bicycle connections to existing transit facilities, while also opening up opportunities to expand service in this area of the county. With respect to the county's long-range transportation plan, it's consistent with a multitude of recommendations and strategies and policies in that document. I'll just cite a few. One of those is to protect bicycle facilities and trails in areas where walking and biking trips could replace driving trips, facilitate connections to mass transit services, and otherwise enhance access to destinations within cities, villages, hamlets, crossroad communities. Clearly, this project achieves that objective. In terms of strategies, in terms of bicycle safety, to promote off-road multi-use trail connections, communities by providing access to intermodal transfer points like commuter bus parking and ride lots. Page 138 of the LRTP specifically references multi-use trail extensions, and it specifically states that future extension of and connections to the Orange County Heritage Trail is recommended, as well as to a new Monroe-Newburgh Trail along the abandoned right-of-way. I should mention that the Scunamunk Rail Trail will connect, not only it's going to be a 10-mile trail segment, but it'll also connect to the county's Heritage Trail when it's completed. And on page 217 of the LWRP, this specific rail corridor is referenced as being the Newburgh-Chester Rail Trail. At this point, the right-of-way that's being acquired from the owners who are Plotkin is basically from the Salisbury Mills train station down to Gray Court within Chester and in the vicinity of Camp LaGuardia. So now I guess I'll speak a little bit to the slides that you have before you. It's a 10-mile stretch. We will be using federal 5307 funds to include the right-of-way incidental engineering, design, construction, review. We're pursuing the use of some of the funds for public art. It's not standalone art pieces, but art that would be integrated into the design of the facilities, as well as maintenance. And we're looking at a 3-year time horizon. This is just a map showing the extent of the proposed Scunamunk Rail Trail. Ultimately, we do want to pursue that connection into Newburgh, as well as the Storm King Art Center. But this project will run from Salisbury Mills down to Chester and connect into the Heritage Trail. And then we just have some photos showing, I've had the opportunity to walk a significant stretch of the right of way. This is the bridge that crosses 94. It's in actually very good shape, and just showing segments of the trail. And then the next slide is showing, one of the bridges that crosses actually both of these cross the Moodna Creek. So very excited about this project. I will turn this over to Ashley, who will get into the specifics as it relates to the tip, but I just wanted to provide an overview of the project so you have a better understanding of its scope and location. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Okay, so on the screen in front of you, you should be seeing the draft tip amendment. So currently there's no pin associated with it because it would be a new pin. So it's the Scunnamunk Rail Trail that's constructing a multi-use trail for bicycle and pedestrian transportation and transit connections. And so currently this project is looking to use FTA 5307 funds. So be utilizing about $14.4 million worth of 5307 with a $3.6 million match. And you can see here it's going through the design and the right-of-way phases into construction. Currently they're listed in FFY 2021 and 2022. And just as a reminder, 537 is through the Federal Transit Administration. And so those funds are made available to designated recipients such as Orange County in places with a population over 200,000. And so those funds can be used for things like planning, engineering, design, evaluation of transit projects and other technical transportation related studies, as well as like capital investments such as buses and other systems meant to kind of enhance the transit operations and transit experience. And so yeah, so this project is looking to utilize 5307 and would be added as a new project to the TIP in an amendment. Does anyone have any questions?
This is Gedalia. I would like to ask a question. The 5307 funds, is that new funding that's made available now through any of the most recent legislation for infrastructure? What money is this? Where was this money before? How did it become available?
Ashley, I can
So
speak to that if you want. It's a 5307 funding that we use now to help for operating assistance and to purchase buses. One of the reasons we're able to use this though is because of CARES funding that came out last year, which is supporting the local bus operations right now. That freed up some of this funding to make it possible.
Okay, I just want to point out that there's a great need for new buses within the county. I know that we're working closely with the county to find some of those buses, and I want to make sure that none of those other needs are in any way compromised by taking a huge chunk of $80 million towards the trail. Even though the trail is very important, but the transit systems in the county is also very important. And our system is growing by very high numbers, and we want to make sure that there's no shortage for additional buses if this money is set aside for the trail.
Right. We definitely took that into account. And like we were talking last week, we were able to identify a fund source to get the village 2 buses without any issue. This, I definitely took that all into account. And another fund source we have for buses is a funding called 5339. So between those funding sources, we are in a good position. That was all accounted for. It's a good point, though.
Thank you.
I just want to echo Gedalia's point that this doesn't affect the operation of the systems that we have in the county.
No, that was definitely my concern too, Mike. And like I said, with the CARES funding and then there's, whatever other future legislations could bring more money to the county. It looks like we definitely analyzed this for a long period of time before we committed to it. We're in a good position.
The county is working with us on 2 new buses, but as I said in private, keep your eyes open for more than just 2, because the need for us, and I'm sure for other transit providers, is much greater than 2. But as long as you could balance both without impacting the transit, we're on board.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's,
Can you also just quickly say in which towns is this trail running through? You said Chester. Just name the towns that this trail is located in.
It goes through Blooming Grove, Chester. It goes through the village of Washingtonville, and there's a small piece in the town of Cornwall.
I see. Well, you said Blooming Grove. Is it the town of Blooming Grove or the villages of Blooming Grove?
The town of Blooming Grove.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
the same question from our end here is the transportation hub in Middletown, the funding for it is not impacted by this, right?
No,
Correct.
that's separate funding through our modernization enhancement program.
Very good. Thank you. That's a good project. Very nice project.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Those were all really great questions and points. So I'm glad they came up. Are there any other questions or comments on this project? Okay, so then per usual, we'll draft the TIP amendment, and then it'll go out for 14 days of public review ahead of our next policy committee meeting, which should be in June. So
let me just on this one project just add one a point. If these kinds of funds become available, and I understand that the county is the first in line to be aware of them, but if it's significant funds in the future, try to make it a point of a call for projects. There may be other projects needed that the county isn't aware on the first round, but having a formal call for project would give a lot of opportunity for people to give some thought to potential good projects that the county would benefit from.
yes, that's a good point too, and something we'll definitely, I think, take into consideration. Okay, and actually, unless there's any other questions on this amendment, I think we can roll right into the next item, which is actually Gedalia, the Forest Bridge to Route 208 and Route 17 Connector Road, and the village and the town have asked to speak to the council about it.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. For those who haven't seen, we have submitted a letter and some plans to the ACTAC leadership that ACTAC, please feel free to share that online. So if people want to see it or read it, they should have the opportunity for. The project that we are introducing is an offspring of a project that was on the tip and in discussion and in the works for many, many years. It used to be called the Larkin West Extension, which was a parallel road to the New York State 17, connecting multiple overpass bridges, starting from County Route 105 to the Forest Road Bridge to New York State 208. That project was initiated by the county. It was on the tip, first for design and soft cost, spending money on engineering, environmental studies. After that, the county had submitted, I think twice or three times, for Tiger grant application to the Federal Highway Administration, Federal DOT. And for whatever reason, those Tiger grants were not funded. and therefore the county decided to walk away from the project because the cost of the construction was so significant. After we reached out to the county said, we don't want to be the sponsor, but we're going to welcome any of the local communities that would want to sponsor this project and continue forward. At that time, the county shared with us all the plans that was designed by the engineers. So we have all the institutional knowledge and information, and whatever monies was spent, we have that. We decided to break the project up in different phases, and we currently are working on one phase, which is connecting the Forest Road Bridge to the 208 bridge, and having that as a direct entrance and exit from Curtis Joel through to the 208, which is right where the exit and entrance to the New York State 17 is, thereby avoiding a huge bottleneck that impacts very badly the village of Monroe and the town of Monroe, creating much hardship, as was reported in the newspapers on this project. So from a design standpoint, this is the same design that the county DPW has initiated with engineers as part of a public process using TIP funds for the design proposal, but we're taking one portion of it and renaming the project just because it's easier understood when it's divided in phases that this is a Forest Road connector road to the 208/17. Thank you, Ashley, for putting the screen on. This shows the project. It shows the yellow portion, as it says on the side, is existing. The only new portion that we're proposing is basically the blue, and some of the red is going to be eliminated. So it's much smaller in scale. It does not connect from the 105 to Forest Road Bridge, which is the majority of the project, which that would be left as phase 2 of this proposal. But we're proposing to place this project back on the tip for design purposes up to the point of being bid ready. We're hopeful that in the infrastructure, upcoming infrastructure bills, there may be money available for the construction. At this point, we wanted to introduce this project to the OCTC committee and to the state DOT. This is very much related to the DOT in addition to being on the tip and funding issues, but it also connects into the Forest Road Bridge, which is a DOT bridge, and it connects into the entrance and exit at the 208, which is a state road, and the 17. So this is going to have to be coordinated with the town of Monroe, the village of Monroe, and the state DOT. We're the sponsors of the project because we have a very great interest in this project for traffic calming, getting in and out of the village without having to drive on Scunnamunk Street, which is a very residential area. And also the town of Monroe and the village of Monroe have imposed weight limits. So trucks and trailers and other delivery have a hard time getting into the Curtis Joel community from the 17 because of all the weight limits around surrounding Curtis Joel on these private roads. Having a direct road would be very, very beneficial as a regional project, helping multiple municipalities, as the county has itself recognized at the time years ago when they made this project a priority. And if not for the large construction cost, this would have been a county project going forward. So we're taking the load off the county. We're continuing this project as a regional approach, but divided in phases. And we're looking to add it back to the tip and get some funding for the design. So that's a general overview of the project. We've asked Ashley to put us on the agenda for the next month's meeting, where we're going to have a PowerPoint presentation with some traffic data and counts and other more specifics, so the committee could have a better understanding of the phase that we're pursuing at this point.
Vidalia, this is Julie Richmond. Thank you for the presentation. Will you have more costs at that point, at the next presentation?
We're going to be working on cost, but as you know, Julie, a project in this early stage, it's going to be not easy to quantifying cost, but we're definitely going to have a cost that would cover all the soft cost, engineering cost, seeker cost, up to the point of construction ready, which is what we're looking for on the tip. We're not, we would love to have the entire project on the tip, but we know that it's difficult to have large amounts of funds, but at least let's move on. The environmental reviews and some of the plans need to be updated, and the permitting processes with DOT. So we're going to have a cost for that. And we're going to try to have some construction estimates as well.
Gedalia, this is Alan Sorensen with Orange County Planning. Does the project also involve right-of-way acquisition, or has the village already addressed that issue?
So that's a good point. Before we presented this project here to the ACTAC, the entire blue that you see in the map is all on one parcel of 22 acres. Before we presented this project here, we went out and purchased the entire 22 acres. So the village owns the entire 22 acres that this project needs to be on. Now there may be a little piece of acquisition where the yellow transitions into the blue, closer to the Forest Road Bridge. Maybe a small piece of transition in order to make that connection, because we do have frontage there, but not much. But the entire blue is on village-owned lands that we purchased the last few months for precisely this purpose.
Okay, thank you.
So the sponsor for the project, Gedalia, is the Village of Curious Joel?
The answer is yes, technically yes. The county would have been more of a regional sponsor, but the county asked the locals to be the sponsor, and between the town of Monroe and the village of Monroe, the village of Curious Joel took it upon himself to be the sponsor. We had discussions with the town of Monroe about this project and with the village of Monroe. The village mayor had statements in the newspaper very supportive of the project. The town of Monroe, we are still going to have to go through SECRA, but yes, the village of Curious Joel, either the village of Curious Joel or the town of Palm Tree will be the formal sponsor of the project, working with neighboring municipalities, because this project is outside of the Curious Joel boundaries. This project is within the town of Monroe on
Right.
lands owned by the village of Curious Joel.
Okay.
Can I ask a stupid question? Maybe DOT could answer. Can you put a project on the tip with just design phase only?
Yeah, hi, everyone. It's Sandra again. Well, that's really a question for Ashley or for Julie, but I can tell you that Federal Highways does not like to see that. And really the big risk is that you could run into the 10-year PE, have to pay back the costs if for some reason you weren't able to secure the construction funds within 10 years. That is what happened with the previous project, the Larkin Drive project, which I think ran into some significant environmental issues with threatened and endangered species. So just things to think about moving forward.
let me clarify the facts. The prior project, which is the Larkin Drive West, as I said earlier, which was running from the 105 to Forest Road Bridge to 208, that project was on the tip only for $750,000, only to cover design and environmental work. So the first part answer is yes. There is a history for projects being on the tip just for design and engineering, and Larkin Drive West is one of them. The reason why it fell through, I wasn't aware of any endangered species, and none of the records that we got from the county's engineer refers to endangered species. The two obstacles that this project ran in, one was right-of-way acquisition between the county 105 and the Forest Road Bridge. There's some expensive real estate that the county had to deal with, and also because the Tiger project was applied for 3 times and not funded, and the cost of the total project was about 30 million. And the county said, if we can't get Tiger, we can't build the project. The current proposal the total project was close to 2 miles long. The portion that we're proposing right now is less than half a mile. So it's not like we're doing phase 1, half of the project. We have to count for whatever, $12.5 million. We're doing the blue that you see on the map is really significantly shorter from the larger one, and we're going to have that outlined, the before and after, in the PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Gedalia. I do want to point out that you're absolutely right. One of the issues, the reason that the project came off the tip was there were right-of-way acquisition issues. There was environmental issues, but one of the reasons was we did reach the 10-year PE time limit. And one of the problems was there was not funding identified for construction. So we're kind of right back in that same situation. I think it would be beneficial if you could cost out the total project. I mean, this is a discussion you can have offline with your engineers and whatnot, but there's 2 things. I mean, to get it on the tip, we're going to need to know what the total project cost is going to be, but also, if you want to apply for other grant funding, now the Tiger program has converted to another program called RAISE. You could potentially apply for that as well if you can get through the design estimating in relatively, I don't know what your time frame is, but the current RAISE grant application is due, I think, in July, mid-July. So that would be one source of funding, you know, an alternative source to help supplement.
So let me point out, we have looked at the RAISE program because the county has forwarded that to all municipalities,
right,
through the ACTAC. But there may be RAISE funding next year as well. So the thinking was, let's be on the tip, let's move forward with the design. So when the next RAISE project comes about, we're ready to apply. That's exactly the thinking we had. Let's do all the planning. Let's be shovel ready. And within that shovel ready, let's move to the next step. Look, if we're going to be applying.
Here's another just quick thought I want to throw out there is that I know being on the tip, and again, this is Sandra from New York State DOT. I totally recognize that being on the tip is an important step, especially when you're applying for these larger federal programs. Something that you might want to consider, and I'm just throwing things out here for you to take into consideration, is that depending on how much the engineering is going to cost, you know, you could put something on the tip because again, you feel that it's a regionally significant project, but you could put it on the tip for engineering. That would be all non-federal funds. You know, I don't know what kind of non-federal funds might be available to get the engineering started and on the tip, but that's something to think about because then you don't start that clock with having to pay back the federal aid.
Let me also say for the record that we already had projects that have reached the clock of 10 years, and we got extensions from the Federal Highway Administration after showing that the project had progressed. So it's not like a fixed date that it expires and there is no recourse. So I'm not so concerned about that. And most of the time, the delays are more found in right-of-way acquisitions that takes time for whether you go eminent domain or negotiations. Here, we don't have any of those. It's only a matter of finding funding, and funding could be found through multiple ways. It could be that earmarks are going to be coming back and we're going to be asking for earmarks, but any funding agency is going to look to find if this project is on the tip, because if it's not on the tip, it shows that this is not important enough for the region and for the county and for the people that sit on the tip. And it's basically a declaration of importance. If the project is on the tip, then you could use that to go for either a raise or other funding methods. But being on the tip is the first part, is the starter.
Okay, well, I think we need, to Sandra's point, we probably need to talk amongst ourselves to figure out, it sounds like potentially phasing this project and putting it on for engineering might be a route to go. We will need cost estimates, obviously. Just another question, Gedalia, were you looking to repurpose an existing pin that you have on the tip, or would this be a new pin?
Now we were talking internally on our part whether or not to request to continue using the pin that was there for Larkin Drive extension and just rename that pin. It's really your call. It's either the Larkin Drive extension pin that was on the tip until last year, and last year we defunded that project. I think that was like $100,000 that we removed from that tip, and
Correct.
that's when the pin dropped off the tip. We could go back to that pin if that's in any value to DOT, or we could apply for a new tip, for a new pin. Also, I didn't mention earlier, we have Craig Manning here on the line with us, and they're part of the Curious Joel team on this project. So if you have, they may call you, or you feel free to call them if there's any need for discussion on any specifics that I may have missed.
I'd probably recommend a new pin, only because of what you said earlier with the project limits being so much different. It really does sound like it is a different project. So I would really suggest just starting from scratch with a new pin.
We're fine with that. The reason why we thought of the old pin is because, after all, we have inherited the plans that was designed by engineers that were paid by the old pin. So there was like $350,000 spent on engineering work that we now have in our possession. Of course, a lot of stuff would have to be redone or rechecked because it's a little old, but that was the only reason why we thought of the old pin. But it's really DOT's call.
Ashley, do you have any other questions on this, or do we want to continue this discussion next?
I I just have a question.
Sure.
Can we get, Gedalia says they're gonna have a presentation next meeting. Can we get that in advance so we can look at it and understand this a little bit better?
That would be helpful.
Craig Manning is working on that. As soon as we have that, we don't mind sharing, even though we're gonna steal his thunder from the presentation. If everybody has seen it, but Ashley, why don't you start by sharing the letter and the plans that we have submitted to you, and we'll see how soon we have that presentation before the next meeting. Based on that, we'll share that as well.
Okay, yes, I will share everything that has been shared with me so far, and then once the presentation's ready and you send it over, I can share that as well.
Okay.
No
Now,
problem.
Ashley, do you have the memo that we have gotten like 2 years ago, where the county said we don't want to continue working on this, but we would love, we would be helpful to any local sponsor that wants to take over responsibility on this project? If not, I'm going to share that with you also.
Okay, yeah, maybe just send it over.
Okay. I believe it came from the planning department.
Yes, it did.
Okay.
I think we have it here, but if you want to just send it again, Gedalia, they'll probably be more expeditious than us finding it.
Okay, okay, not a problem.
Okay, so we'll share those items with members and then share again once we have the PowerPoint. Okay, so that'll be an agenda item for our next planning committee meeting. So stay tuned. I am going to actually, we still have some local project sponsor updates. So if people, if anyone has anything they'd like to update on quickly, I know we're kind of reaching the end here.
Since I'm in gear of making the presentation on this one, I'll just quickly give on another project that we have, actually two other projects. The one project, and I don't have the PIN numbers in front of me, but one is the project that includes County Route 44 and Forest Road and Bakertown Road. The reason why this project was taking longer than we wished at the time is because it involves a significant number of right-of-ways, probably 30, 40, like large numbers, but it's making good progress. We've made submissions to the county DPW last month on the design of County Route 44. Actually, some of the project is going to be improving County Route 44, but the village is the sponsor because we're improving the portion that runs through within the village of Curtis Joel. So we're waiting for the county to review that and give us some clearance. But we do want to bring up one issue with DOT and OCTC. And the issue is, because it's a project that has multi-trunks, it has County Route 44, it has Mountain Road, it has Forest Road, and it has Bakertown Road. And the preliminary indication we got from DOT was that we have to be concluded with all right-of-ways on all sections in order to become construction ready and permitted to go out to bid. And I want to revisit that issue because there may be one little strip of right-of-way on the Bakertown Road component that's basically holding off work on County Route 44, which is totally unrelated. So if I heard earlier in the conversation through Middletown, through Jake, that there's a possibility to phase a project and have it built and draw on funds in different time zones. If we would only have the opportunity to start construction on the roads that have completed all right-of-way taking and just wait with a road that has one right-of-way issue still pending, that would make the project construction ready this year. But if if the entire project needs to wait for one little right of way, that may take, it's a right of way actually from a condo project, and that condo project's bylaw says that any taking needs to be signed by every single condo owner. There's 100 residents owning condos in that project, and over 50% is tenant occupied. To go and chase 100 signatures on a small strip of land and have the entire $10 million project on hold pending those 100 signatures is really, really creating a hardship. And if there's a possibility to skip the portion that needs the 100 signatures, or skip the entire street that has the project, has the condo on it, just continue construction on the entire different side of the village on County Route 44, that would be a tremendous help for the project to move forward. I'm not looking for answers right now, but I'm looking to have DOT and OCTC reconsider holding off an entire $10 million project, which is spread out on multiple streets, to hold up the entire project for one single right-of-way acquisition, which does not affect any of the other portions of the project. That should be reconsidered.
Okay, it's Sandra Jobson again from State DOT. I'll pass that along to our local projects unit, who's probably who you've been working with, Orietta Tricard, and her team. But it does sound like, you know, having a meeting to discuss it and maybe seeing if there's, you know, different options would be a really good next step. So I'll let Orietta know that you'd like to look at that more closely.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yep.
We appreciate that much.
Does anyone else have any local project sponsor updates they'd like to give really quickly?
Yeah, sure. This is Jacob. You got the update about the traffic operations. We're waiting for DOT approval and authorization to proceed with construction so we can advertise. The other project is ADA curbs and sidewalks. We're installing curbs and sidewalks on Dawson Avenue now. The construction resumed. We're done with downtown. We shifted over to Dawson Avenue all the way to City Line. And the project looks very nice. And now we're going to have a walkable Dawson Avenue, which is a main commercial route, and some residential in there, which is we're very excited about. It's been needed for many, many years, and now it's going to be there. So all is well here. And Alan, if you can give me a call on my cell phone at some point, I would really appreciate that. When you have a chance, when you have a moment.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. I'm gonna keep things rolling right along, Julie, I think.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Well, there's no old business listed. Does anyone have any old business they'd like to discuss? Okay, hearing none. I know we're at 11 a.m. now. We would like to still give the presentation on the travel model update. Lauren Burns is going to present, but I understand obviously if people have to hop off, I think we can share the presentation with members as part of a post-meeting email. So if anyone has to hop off, we understand, but I think we are going to keep going into new business. And Lauren, I'm going to stop sharing and you can start sharing your screen. And so Lauren's going to be talking about the update to the Orange County travel model. And so we had enlisted Cambridge Systematics to assist in the update. And so Lauren's going to give you an overview of that effort.
Yes, thank you, everyone. I'm going to make this really, really short. I promise, Ashley, I would run through it. So I really would just want to highlight some of the main points. As Ashley spoke about in one of the previous planning committee meetings, that we are updating our travel model. We are also bringing a new air quality conformity determination to the planning committee at the June meeting. So we just wanted to give a high level overview of some of the changes because we have made big changes in the travel model. And also we've updated the forecasts. The travel demand model is a computer model. It's used to estimate travel behavior and travel demand for a specific time frame based on specific assumptions. We use it in transportation studies, the long-range transportation plan, and most importantly, the air quality conformity process. So here's one of the requirements that is outlined in a federal regulation that kind of guides the process. And the main point I just want to make with this slide is that as we update the model, we must continue to use a model that's similar or of greater sophistication for regional emissions analysis to the previous model. So we couldn't, quote unquote, backslide. So we are keeping a traditional gravity model. So the 4-step model, we use 3 steps. We have a trip generation step, a trip distribution step, and then a trip assignment step. We did not previously break out the load choice, and we reevaluated the data, and based on available data and also the overall mode split from the updated census data, we've decided that we'll continue to not, there's an overwhelming use of single occupancy vehicles in Orange County. So we're going to continue to not split out the mode as of now and look to reassess with new data in the future. This is just a graphic of the model development process, which I'm not going to go into. So for the model update, we started this project last year in the spring. We kicked it off as part of kind of like an extension of the long-range transportation plan, which Cambridge Systematics was a part of. They were kind of updating the model for the long-range transportation plan, and they made some recommendations specifically on the data and the ability to update the data. And also this was kind of with the retirement of Fred Buddy, he created the travel model for Orange County and had been running it for many, many years. And with his retirement, it left a huge gap in the process because none of the staff were able to run Zoom. And with the limited documentation, we're also not able to replicate Fred's process. So we knew we thought it was a natural time to transition the model platform so staff could run it for this updated air quality conformity process. But also it was an opportunity to create documentation so it can be replicated in the future. So some of the objectives were to create a sensitive network-based model. We want to represent different time periods. We wanted credible and recent data sources, an easy-to-use user interface, and we wanted training on the model development, validation, and application process. We also needed to update the forecast because this next process is triggered by NIMTIC's Metropolitan Transportation Plan. They're basically their LRTP. They're going out to 2050. And because we're in a maintenance area with them for PM 2.5, we also have to forecast out to 2050. So we needed to update the population and employment forecast to go out to 2050. And we also wanted to make sure the model was sensitive to change. So here's a brief overview of the earlier version of the model and compared to some of the new changes that we implemented. Some of the big ones, just to highlight, we changed platforms from PT Zoom to Transcad. We updated the time period from a 1-hour PM peak to a 24-hour in 4 time periods. We also updated the TAS layer, which was known as like a travel shed, and it was parcel based. And we've changed that to the TASs are now consistent with census geography. And also we staff received training from Cambridge Systematics, and we did not have that opportunity with PT Visum. There are very limited training opportunities in the Northeast. So here's just some of the major model input data that we used. One of the big changes, we implemented big data into the model, into the estimation stage, and into the validation stage. Here's just the different trip generation models by purposes and then time of day. And then this slide was just showing the validation process and the different validation checks we did, not only for the whole process, but each step we validated and checked for reasonableness. And this final slide just shows the Orange County travel demand model outputs versus the Highway Performance Monitoring System, or HPMS, VMT. And this is part of the step that we're required to do in the regional emissions analysis. We have to reconcile our estimated VMT to kind of like the HPMS ground truth. And so I'm going to briefly go over the forecasts. We did update these. As I said, we had to go out to 2050. So the forecast years that we'll run the model for are 2025, 2035, 2045, and 2050. This is just an overview of the steps that we took. So we compared the current or the older forecast for 2010, and we looked at other agencies' forecasts for Orange County and kind of compared the growth trends. And then we added in newer data from 2010 to 2019 and looked at that growth trends for population, employment, building permits. And then using that, we estimated the forecasts for the entire county. And then we did a top-down approach of disaggregating that to the municipal level and then down to the TAS level. And all of this is outlined in documentation that we can provide if anyone would like to see it. And so here are the final forecasts that we came up with for population, employment, households, and housing units. Employment is jobs. It is not the number of employed people in Orange County. It is the jobs in Orange County. So overall, we kind of made them a little bit more conservative. The 2000 and 2010 was one of the biggest growth periods in Orange County. It was almost like a 10% growth rate. We saw from 2010 to 2019 more of like a 2.5, 3% growth rate. So we did make the overall growth a little bit more conservative. And we checked that against other data sources, and we found that it is reasonable. So finally, the next step, so we are using the HPMS reconciled VMT to apply that to the regional emissions analysis for all those forecast years. Once that's finalized, we will add that to the air quality conformity document, which will also include all of what I just breezed through and talk about the planning assumptions and the model update. And so we'll be presenting that at the June meeting. It will then go out for public comment to align with NIMTIC's public comment schedule on June 16th. And then we'll be looking to hopefully adopt that at the August policy committee meeting. And again, this just is an overview of some of the documentation that was developed in the process and will be available by request. So thank you for bearing with me on that. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or any staff and hopefully we can help you out. Okay, thank you.
Do you have the records divided by municipality, or it's all county-wide?
Is what?
Are the records that you have all county-wide, or is it divided by municipality? So when you model out the growth, can we see, for example, the growth that you have projected for Curtis Joel's system, or it's all like in one pot, everybody together?
So we broke out the growth rates by municipality for forecast, so that can be shown at the TAS level. And that's just to kind of show where trips may be attracted to or producing. In terms of the actual model, we did break out the model to align with municipalities and to align with regions in the county. They're not validated to the municipal level. They're validated to the county level. But that's definitely something that we can share.
But in addition to sharing, since we don't have the capabilities of doing a model, what would be involved to tweak so a model is done for each provider, so each provider knows what to account for, what to anticipate, what to plan for? It would be a very helpful tool if there is a model for each transit provider within the county.
Yeah, I agree. That would be great. I think the issue is just, for conformity purposes, we look at it at a regional level. It takes a lot to build a model and to maintain a model, and to do that for every municipality, it would be a huge task for the OCTC staff and for the budget. But
okay, so we'll
on a
take
regional
look at
level,
what
we
you
do
have.
have that data. Yeah.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions for Lauren? Okay. I think as long as there's no other questions, we're moving right into reports. So I think the only staff report I have right now is just kind of a save the date for June 8th. We're going to hold a back-to-back policy and planning committee meetings so that we can move along the draft TIP amendment we just talked about today, as well as continue some of the conversations we've also been having today. So just kind of stay tuned for that. Julie, I don't know if you have any other staff reports you'd like to give.
I do not, and for the sake of time, just mention that, you're probably all aware that NISDOT, in collaboration with WSP, is working on the Route 17 PEL study, and they have gotten to the point where they've developed some draft alternatives for the interchanges, and they're not quite ready to share with the public, but they have been sharing that with the project advisory committees. I know you guys have been coordinating with them because they have mentioned that, your project, they definitely have to take into consideration with respect to the exits there. And I would just recommend, if you haven't already, you can set up an appointment for a one-on-one discussion with NISDOT and WSP to talk about the proposed alternatives in your municipality.
Okay, if you don't mind sharing some of the contact information with us.
Sure. Ashley, we can probably circulate that information in an email afterwards, right?
Yeah, we can share.
It's Mike Tiano and Kelsey Kahn from WSP or FHI, I think she's with.
Okay, does anyone else have any other member reports they'd like to give right now? Okay, hearing none, Julie, I think we can adjourn.
Yes, okay. I'll officially adjourn this meeting at 11:19. Thank you all for your time and your attendance, and we'll see you in June.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Julie. Bye.
Thanks.